Hey everyone, it's your boy Slick. Today, we're going to be looking at the new 3x3 by Yuxin, the Huanglong. So the Huanglong just came out a couple weeks ago. It comes in both a stickered and a stickerless version. I got the stickerless version just because I prefer stickerless. It's a standard 3x3 size, 55.5 millimeters. It's a pretty lightweight cube. It's a lot like its sibling, the Little Magic, in that it's very fast. Right out of the box, this thing feels like a more stable version of the Little Magic, which is 100% a good thing. The Little Magic is probably my least favorite 3x3 that I've ever tried because I find it's too fast that I can't control it. I tend to just overshoot every single layer turn. It's really unstable. This one basically improves on everything of that. The magnets are a perfect strength for its kind of lightweight feel. You can see right here that there's a very satisfying click at the end. It's very smooth, and at the end it clicks into place, and it's very nice, and it's not too strong where I feel like it interferes with U2 flicks or with anything like that. It's exactly the right force. The corner cutting on this thing is, like most cubes, very good. 45 degrees, no problem. A little bit over 45 degrees even, it can do it. And of course, it depends a little bit on how you set up your cubes, but it wasn't a problem to get this thing to corner cut perfectly without having to make it too loose or too tight. Overall, it's definitely very fast. This is among the faster of my cubes. If I do just my normal flick strength, you can see it overshoots just a tiny bit. So when I use this cube, I have to kind of make a mental note to turn it a little bit less to get it to actually just click, which is something that isn't a huge problem. It's just if I were to use this as my main, it's something I would have to get a little used to. One thing I really like about this is the sticker shades. This red is unlike any sticker shade I've ever seen. The rest of them are pretty standard. The green is a little bit different too. But this red, let's compare it to something else. Here's the red compared to the Valk. You can see it's just brighter. It's got a little bit of orange to it. And here we have a GAN SM, and you can see it's actually very close to the GAN SM's red. So if you have one of these, it's basically this red, but in a stickerless version. I've never seen it before. It's very bright. It makes recognition easier for red versus orange, which is the colors that I probably mix up the most, except for maybe white and yellow and blue and green. You know what? I just mix up everything. When solving this, I get very little lockups. The turning is very smooth. It's kind of a quiet cube. Here, I'll let you guys hear what it sounds like. So as you can hear, there's no scratchiness. There's no kind of hollow sounds like you get with a Valk, and there's no blocky sounds or snappy sounds like you get with like a GAN SM. I'm definitely considering it to be maybe my new main. I actually got my new personal best with this thing within a day of getting it. So just by that alone, I'm willing to give this thing a good try. So now here's the important part, and how does the Huanglong compare to the rest of the 3x3s that are on the market right now? So first off, we have my Valk 3 here. You guys can see it's a Supernova cube from Speed Cube Shop. The Valk, it's obviously louder. The Valk is pretty famous for having that kind of hollow, blocky sound. Smoothness, it feels about the same. Feels just as smooth. Neither of them have like any sounds from the layers turning. It seems like they just kind of glide right over each other. Magnet strength, I would say this is a Supernova cube. The Valk 3 doesn't come factory magnetized, so it's going to change depending on how you magnetize your Valk 3 if you did. The one I have right here, though, these magnets are kind of subtle, whereas these have a definite click to them. As far as speed goes, they're pretty close to the same. Out of the box, the Huanglong is probably a lot faster. I did lube this with a lot of Traxxas 30K though to slow it down. So for me, these are about exactly the same speed. They're both the same size at 55.5 millimeters. And the Valk feels a little bit heavier. The Valk edges are a little bit more round. The corners kind of round off more than these. The Huanglong has kind of sharper corners than the Valk. Here we have the GTS2. This one feels a little smoother, and that the layers have a little bit of weight to them. And I kind of like that more. The GTS2, I feel like I breathe on this thing and it does like a U3 flick, which isn't, of course, not to say a bad thing. I do like the GTS2. It was actually my first main when I got it. It's a very fast cube, whereas this, while it is a fast cube, it just feels like a heavier cube. It has almost the same speed as the GTS2, yet with a little bit of heavier feeling, which I like a lot. It might be because of the ball bearings that are actually in the corners to give the corners a little bit of weight when you do a layer turn. Maybe that's what's giving it a little bit more of a hefty turn compared to the GTS2. Either way, however it is, I like it a lot. Magnet strength, GTS2, they're actually pretty much about the same. All right, so here we have the MGC, the other new cube that just came out around the same time as this one. The MGC is a lot heavier. It's a lot scratchier than the Huanglong. This one has more of a smooth feel, whereas this one has more of a scratchy, heavier feel. QBs on the MGC are a lot rounder. You can see all the corners are basically very rounded off, whereas this one has sharp corners, even on the inside here. It has like a sharp corner right here, whereas the MGC is basically completely round, even on the corners. This one, while it is a little bit faster, with that comes a little bit more instability. The Huanglong is a little bit more unstable compared to this, but that's because this is just kind of a heavy, hefty cube. The magnet strength, definitely more of a click to this one than the MGC. The MGC is one of the cubes that has very subtle magnets. It kind of just eases into the end of the layer turn, whereas this one has that kind of snap. The MGC, as far as noise goes, they're about the same. They're both very quiet cubes. The MGC is maybe a little bit quieter because it has a kind of rubbing, scratchy sound to it, whereas this one does have a little bit of a click at the end, probably because the magnets are a little bit stronger. All right, so here we have the GuoGuan Yuxiao Pro. This isn't exactly a flagship cube, but I like it a lot, so I'm gonna go ahead and use it. GuoGuan is a lot louder. You guys can hear already right away. Well, I wouldn't say the Huanglong is scratchy. It is scratchier than this GuoGuan. This GuoGuan just feels like pure lubricated plastic, whereas this has a little bit of texture to it, which I like a lot more. It makes it a little bit more satisfying to turn. Weight-wise, size-wise, about the same. All of these cubes are the same size at 55.5 millimeters, except for the GAN is 56. So next we have the GAN Air SM. This is the only cube that actually is a different size. GAN Air SM is 56 millimeters, whereas every other cube here is 55.5. The GAN is a little bit more blocky. It has a little bit more of a hollow, blocky, snappy feel than the Huanglong. The Huanglong is very smooth and fast, whereas this is very snappy and fast. It feels like I flick it and the layer is just boom, it's all of a sudden there. Like you can hardly see any travel time at all. It's just kind of clicks. Whereas the Huanglong, you can kind of see it. It's kind of smooth. You can actually feel plastic rubbing against plastic. Whereas this one, you can't feel anything. It's very fast, very snappy, which of course is the reason that a lot of people use this cube, is because it's so effortless. The Huanglong does lock up a little bit more than the GAN Air SM though, just because the GAN Air with the strong snappy magnets and the light cubies and the very smooth feel, it's so snappy and it's so stable, the thing is basically impossible to lock up. Whereas this does have a little bit, you can see there is some overshooting problem. That might be just because I'm not used to it yet. Either way, there's a little bit of an overshoot problem here that I get, whereas with the GAN, I don't think I've ever overshot or undershot with this thing, just because the magnets are so snappy. Speaking of magnets, the GAN magnets are stronger. They're actually pretty close, but I think the GAN cubies themselves are a little bit lighter, so the magnet strength feels snappier, because even though the magnets feel like they're at the same strength, this one has less plastic, so it's a little lighter, so it turns with a little bit more of a snap than this one. Finally, we have the Valk Power M. Valk Power M feels heavier, even though they're the same size, which isn't surprising, seeing as this is probably the heaviest cube that's out there. The Valk has a little bit more of an elastic feel. This kind of have a very smooth one, whereas this one, even though it is very smooth, it does feel like something's kind of working against you, which I enjoy a lot. This is actually my main right now, and I kind of like that it kind of works against you because it keeps me from overshooting and it keeps it very stable. The magnets in the Huanglong are stronger. It's actually kind of similar to the GAN, where the GAN, though the magnets are about the same in these two, the GAN feels snappier because the cubies are lighter. This one is the same, where I feel like the magnets are actually very close to each other, but this one feels less snappy because the cubies, I think, are heavier. So these have more plastic that it has to snap together, which makes it feel a little bit slower than this, even though the magnets feel very, very, very similar. I would say the Huanglong is a little bit faster than the Valk Power M, though not as smooth as the Valk Power M, just because it's got that heavy, slow feeling. In conclusion, this cube is definitely great. It's definitely worth the price. I can definitely see this being a main killer. I can see a lot of people maining this in the future. It's very smooth. I know a lot of people use the Little Magic, even though it was a budget cube. This is basically Little Magic, just way more stable and a little bit less fast, so it's more controllable. So that's it for this review. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you like this, go ahead and give it a like. If you want to see more content like this in the future, go ahead and subscribe, and I will see you guys next time.